Bum, bum, ba, 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 bum. Bum, bum, ba, ba, bum, ba, ba. It's what? See, your name, your Simply Secular Dave, is getting over. It's not Canada. If I get enough people to say Canada, Dave, it will be Canada. I think you're on mute. So this is great. I can just say Canada like a million times, and you will have no recourse, sir. No recourse. What's up, 420 atheist Sammy? Can you just call me Sammy?
Where'd the 7 come from?
I don't know, dude. I like supposedly. Now here's the trick. We'll just talk as Dave tries to master the subtleties of audio. Supposedly, if you ask people what their favorite number is between 1 to 10, statistically speaking, they're more than likely to say 7 than any other number.
Yeah, that is true.
So maybe I
don't know why that is, but it is a phenomenon.
Yeah. At some point, I'm sure there'll be an in-depth psychological study, and there'll be the misfiring neurons, and people will say, that's what it is right there. The 7, that's the cluster of 7.
Am I good now?
Yeah, you're good, man.
I'm not too loud or anything. I was on the Tang Discord last night, and it's just a zoo over there, so you got to turn your volume all the way up.
Oh, is it? So what? So for a person who has no interest in Discord, and a person who has a vague idea on what Discord is it just a general melee? What goes on?
It is, in most cases, it is very similar to this. If you're doing a video Discord thing, there's a lot of chat. There's specific chat rooms on chat topics. Actually, Rage was there.
Last night.
Yeah.
yeah. I've been going into their Discord server. I've been in there a couple times this week. I enjoy it.
I do. I really enjoy it, especially the guests they have, and they commit some time to go in there and chat and that. And most of the Tang people I enjoy talking to anyway. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Rage.
Yeah, it was fun. Meeting Eddie last night and getting to talk to him. He's an intriguing guy, smarter than a whip, man.
He's really smart. I mean, obviously, I don't agree with all of his views and his takes on things and his interpretations of how he believes other people are trying to come across. But that's all a part of Discord. You get into it and you discuss it, and he's like, this is the kind of guy that I like talking to, because I could get into a fiery, I would call it fiery debate with him, and hug him, fist bump him, and say, "Hey, see you tomorrow."
Yeah,
he's that guy.
It sounds like you just said he's full of shit, but what do you disagree with him about?
Man, where to start?
Or do you mean Rage? Rage had a great conversation with him last night, and I just backed off and enjoyed it.
Yeah, we were. So I was trying to find common ground with him on mythicism, because he rejects mythicism and kind of went into the demonizations of mythicism. So I was trying to explain it to him. I thought Dan did a really good job. So yeah, he definitely can't see how mythicism would have any merit academically. So that would be one major start. And he does claim to be a literal Christian, not a progressive Christian. But I think he's a progressive Christian that just runs away from it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who are delusional about their delusional belief system.
I don't think he's delusional. I think he is genuinely one of those people who could get to a point in their future where they let it go, because he is a truth seeker in some circumstances. He just doesn't apply that to everything. And I think he's more looking for the right keyhole for the key that he has than he is looking for the right key.
Yeah, he seems to be a philosophy guy, so he's able to justify his epistemology and keep him kind of in that faith-based frame of mind. But like his backstory is really intriguing. That's like what I want to talk to him about, is his backstory, because it's very similar to my own.
Oh yeah, very interesting. How you doing, Glenn? Glenn's on.
I'm good. Sorry, I was actually just jumped out of the shower. Didn't want to bother you with all the.
Okay. I understand. I appreciate it. Yep. Appreciate it.
Yeah. How's everyone?
Doing okay. I got
So-
no complaints this morning.
So when is your birthday?
It is the 27th.
Which is
It's this Sunday. So my pub crawl is on Saturday.
yeah.
We're actually seeing Marx Brothers movie
Oh,
on at the Brattle in Harvard Square. It's Feather something. I forget the name. Horse Feathers.
Yeah.
It's a Marx Brothers movie I haven't seen, and it's going to be up on the big screen. And so we get to enjoy that from like 12 to 1. What's that?
I was just about to say, well, I haven't seen one Marx Brothers movie, so I need to change that.
Well, the thing is, when you see old comedy movies, you get to understand how you see the modern day versions of their bits, like Karl Marx's mirror bit, for an example.
Yeah.
You see that replicated tons of times.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I do need to go back and look at the older comedy stuff.
Yeah, well, a lot of the older, like the Marx Brothers, they were doing vaudeville, and they just took their vaudeville act and put it on the screen for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. Just
So,
a
Ray,
second. My cat's deciding that anything paper needs to be chewed. I'm just going to go get it off.
Excellent. So, Rach, how is Mr. Kalam doing with his constant?
Pretty good. I was gonna go and talk to him this morning in a private chat, but I decided to wait till I get home because I'm house sitting and I have to be AFK so much. Yeah, like we had a really good conversation on Sunday, and I think that I surprised him with my knowledge on the Klam and how I was able to actually talk philosophy with him. So yeah, it's been going pretty good. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that if atheists are patient with Khalil, then there's a chance he'll come back to the light and give up the belief in a fictitious God.
Yeah. Yeah. People are on. Each person is on their own journey.
Which is, that's not my intent in talking to him, but like that's just kind of the feel that I get for him. I think he's in a confusing place and he's trying to ground his epistemology, and hopefully that never happens.
I had a customer at a bar I was working at, and he actually went to seminary school before he became an atheist. So whenever people would say something, he would comment, but he wouldn't just comment. He'd like back it up with like facts and like attach like articles defending his position and stuff, and it's the worst person to get into an argument with is someone that knows what they're talking about.
You should always be able to cite your sources when doing an argument, whether it's referencing a philosophical argument or you're talking about news, basic science stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing is that he was in an atheist chat group, and some kid I think he was like 14 or 15, got on there, and he was a devout Christian, and all these a lot older guys started just ripping into the kid, and this guy said, you know what, like you've just lost any chance of him ever believing anything you said, because it's one thing if the guy's in his mid 30s or of age. But when you're going after a teenager who doesn't know any better because that's the way he's been brought up, and if you give the soft sell approach, there's a time to be an asshole, and I know because I can be one very very good one. But there's also a time when you've got to like take the soft sell approach on someone that's a little bit younger. Go
ahead, Rach.
Real quick, I was just going to say, and the hard part is knowing when to toe that line. And I've kind of run into those issues on my channel myself, because you want to be magnanimous when you need to be, and you want to be empathetic when you need to be. And then you need to be that hard asshole when you need to be as well.
Yeah. Well, it's the same, I think, with it kind of coincides with the story you did on that vaccine hesitancy. There are people that you're never going to reach, so being a complete asshole is just a side benefit of that, But there are people that I had I had something where there was a girl that I worked with, and she's still only like, I think I told you this, but she's only like 20, and she this meme about how she can't trust vaccines. But if you notice you know this on Facebook, if there's a thing on vaccine, they always have a thing under there that says about fact checks, and then it linked to a PolitiFact thing about that meme. And then I said, I actually put the link in the comments, and I go, just read this, you know. Now, whether or not she changed her opinion, that's another story. But I just told her, just read this, and then realize that this is why, you know, and forget the fact that we'll go on the vaccine. The vaccine, this pandemic is more or less a variant of SARS. So they've had a vaccine of a starting point for a vaccine for, well, SARS was what, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So they've been researching this vaccine for a hell of a long time.
Yeah.
And then when people go, oh, it's only 6 months. No, it's not 6 months. It's almost 20. It's over 20 years in the making.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, you both raise interesting points. And Rachel, this is what I've struggled with too, is about when to do the soft sell, when to do the hard sell. And to tell you the truth, if I was going to have a logical fallacy, and this is no surprise, I just go for the joke quickly. And I have to hide that. I have to refrain from doing that, from just jumping to the joke immediately. But there has to be an algorithm somehow to help you determine when to do the hard sell and when to do the soft sell. I'll also say that just having that person on your channel or just having the person in the chat somewhat is indicative of the fact that they are willing to change their minds, you know, or that they're open. They're open. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, because I often ask the question, you know, why does Otangelo frequent every atheist chat that I've ever been in? Except like this is the only one, and I'm only assuming because it's probably too early for him, you know, overseas, maybe too late for him overseas. But like, and I have to come to the conclusion is he's at least interested in some of the questions that we have.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Or it's just a manifestation of his own mental illness, which could be true too.
Could be just blatant narcissism. I'm going to prove all these atheists wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards those latter two options.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, the thing is, this is you see, I have I've said, I have a family. I have family that's my cousin out in Edmonton who's a preacher. His dad was a preacher, but he will actually always listen. And when I compare and contrast him to that nutcase, well, anyone that's of those like far right religions, you know, whether it be the God hate, what's the Westboro Baptist or all those other ones, you compare and contrast you might not agree with religious people's beliefs, but if they're not hurting anyone and they're not like going out and like doing a Jehovah's Witness type thing where, you know, they're ramming it down your throat, theoretically, you know, no pun intended, you know. But there is a difference, and you know, I've because I've had philosophical discussions with my cousin, and while he disagrees with me, whether because he is being a thing, he is pro-life and I'm pro-choice, but he's also not one of those ones that the second that the fetus comes out, oh, we don't care about you type thing. You know, he actually puts, you know, he does a lot, you know, for the community, you know, so. And I think, you know, I don't necessarily agree with his viewpoint on religion because I'm not religious, but I'm not going to hammer him because he's coming from a place of, I think, of caring and, you know.
Sure. Yeah. You know, I've said it once and I'll say it again. I'm all about harm reduction. If I can assist the person being less harmful to themselves and to others in the world, that's what I'm going to try to do. Conversion, deconversion, that's an awfully tall order. But if I can help them, you know, be a little bit less harmful. Yeah.
It's just, you see, the thing is that when it comes to these people, these preachers, like there was this meme floating around. It goes, you cherry pick, especially the anti-gay ones, you cherry pick one line, but then ignore the rest of the stuff where there is love thy neighbor. You know, now there's a lot of the Bible that's very hateful. You know, there's a lot in it that's very hateful. But why don't you cherry pick the one or two lines where they actually, or a couple of lines where they are, you know, where in theory, because whether or not Jesus ever existed, where he cleaned the feet of a prostitute or where he fed 500 people. You know, it's not obvious. A lot of it is obviously not real. It's just what's the word? Like, I'm thinking word. It's kind of obviously just telling a story to prove a point type thing, you know?
Yeah.
And why is it that they need to take the most hateful parts of the Bible and use it? Because, well, I think because a lot of them are self-hating, and especially if they're always out against gay people, there's
people who live in hateful societies, people who are incentivized to hate, will create a hateful god, or take a god that's there and make them. You know, there's no surprise that Bronze Age people created Bronze Age deities.
Yeah.
Well, you know, some Christians do cherry pick those passages. I think the issue is that when you cherry pick those passages, you're basically straw manning God. Because what Christians believe is when it talks about a loving God, it's a loving God for Christians and everybody else be damned.
Yeah.
So that's the issue. So these people, and you know, Steven Anderson, people like Matt Powell, they will like straight up say, you know, we follow the old law, but we follow it by our revelation. So we get to pick and choose which of these old laws that we follow. And it's usually, you know, the homosexuals and, you know, cheating on your spouse and stuff like that. And not things like eating shrimp because, you know, shrimp is delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing,
You know, it's interesting because we're talking about epistemology, right? How do you know what you know? And if you're saying that how you know what you know is by personal revelation, well, how do you peer review that? How do you quantify that?
Andy, I got to tell you, I was speaking with a Christian recently and having a good conversation, and I mentioned epistemology, and they said, "Oh yeah, my epistemology over the last couple of years has gotten really a lot better." So I said, "Oh, tell me one of the things that you used to believe that you now question." Nothing. I said, "Okay." No, first I started with tell me something that you used to believe that you no longer believe, and then they had nothing, and I said, tell me something that you used to believe that you now question. Nothing. Like, so how do you measure better when you're talking about epistemology? And they just like literally changed the subject. Like, oh yeah, I know what I know, and I understand the word epistemology, but I don't do it.
Being more confident. I just want to say this, point that out, is that being more confident doesn't mean you're better at epistemology.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. What is it? I've heard that statement many times. What is epistemology? Like, I'm religiously like very naive.
It's the study of what we believe and why we believe it. Kind of.
How do you know what you know?
What can we know, and how do we know that we know it?
Yeah.
It's the study of what we can know, essentially. But just because the conversation moves so fast, so I'm always taking a step back. But in regards to, excuse the beeping, I'm sitting in a hospital ward at the minute.
I hope it's not serious.
I hope
a little bit.
You're burying the lead there, brother.
Okay,
I've just put up to like these. I broke a couple of bones, and now there's the beepy sound.
As long as it's not flashing any red lights, I think we're okay.
As long as you don't have to unplug a really vital machine, Sammy. Maybe
No, and it doesn't want to stop either.
Who streams from the hospital? I guess that's an Australian thing.
When you're here.
It's just a flesh wound.
Exactly.
When you have spiders as big as your head hanging around, you just take it. You just go with it.
Doesn't Australia have the highest number?
Give me 1 minute.
Kill you?
All right, dude. Just mute your mic, Sammy, while you're out. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He buried the lead on that one. Just like you got me the other day with one of those too. Yeah. Dr. Kennard is very cagey. He's
No,
always listening.
Yeah,
Yes.
the thing is this is that you have in Australia, it's like it's a beautiful place, but you have what 8 of the most 10 poisonous spiders and 8 of the most 10 most poisonous snakes in the world. So you know,
Actually, the brown snake, one of the most venomous, is I don't know if it's on the endangered list now or whether it's completely gone. But apparently, the cane toad problem has wiped out a huge number of snakes and small mammals out there.
yeah. What wiped it out?
The cane toad, the poisonous cane toads,
Oh, okay.
they're an invasive species. They brought them there. It was a great idea. They were trying to get rid of cicadas or something, and I'm not entirely sure of what they brought them there to get rid of. But there was no predators for the cane toads, and all of a sudden their population just went into the billions.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. They were actually trying to get rid of like I heard them actually deciding that they needed to like wipe out some sort of thing. So they imported. Yeah, like that just sounds like something a horror movie starts as, you know, like some disaster movie. It's like, hey,
made a bit about that. They put the toad explosion. I think it was in Australia too, in a Simpsons episode a while back.
yeah.
Hey, if I can circle back to where we were on epistemology a moment ago before we got distracted by the hospital visitor. You guys were talking about interpretation and selection, and that is basically what they teach a pastor to do in all of the churches I've ever been to. They don't teach you the Bible. They teach you the passages of the Bible they want to feed you.
Yeah.
So that you are indoctrinated and so that you support the church, so that you tithe, so that you go regularly, so that you invite friends, so that you build the church up. Seminary
is not a fucking philosophy class. You know, you're not getting your doctorate in philosophy typically when you go into seminary, because seminary is theology. And theology, you have the answers, and you're just reverse engineering those answers. Philosophy is an exploration. He always gets so angry when he talks about theology versus philosophy. I think it's kind of weird, to tell you the truth.
I think they fundamentally understand that if you read the Bible beginning to end, if you actually read the Bible, look at the Bible, you're not going to be a Christian for very long.
That's exactly right. And nothing, you know, that there's that saying that nothing makes nothing makes an atheist faster than reading the Bible.
Yeah.
And I say that to people all the time when we're talking about the Bible. I had a conversation with someone the other day, and I quoted them the scripture of women should be silent in the church and not preach and follow their husband's instructions and all this. And they said, oh, no, that's just a misinterpretation of the original language of the Bible. And I said, okay, from what language? Yep. And they did not know.
Excellent.
Well played, sir.
You just brought it back to what I was going to say. My thing is that there's no consistency whatsoever. They will flip from this part's literal to this part's metaphorical. This whole chapter's literal, except this verse.
Yeah.
This one verse in this chapter's metaphorical. So, for example, who's to say that colloquially in ancient Hebrew to wash a prostitute's feet didn't mean something completely different? Right. And Jesus wasn't getting his rocks off. So,
yeah. I just seen the thing today. I was on Praise's channel this morning, and they were arguing like hell. They were all Christians and were absolutely back and forth arguing with each other. And I came in basically just to apologise to Praise for getting his stream taken down yesterday. Right. So I come in and I'm sat there, and they were arguing I must have been there about 20 minutes, half an hour, and they were proper having a go at each other. And when I started talking, one of them said, basically about me not believing in a God. And I says, well, I'll tell you what. I says, when you lot have got it all sorted out between yourself, I says, then come to me. I said, because you can't even make your own minds up. They'll just do nothing but argue with each other. I said, I would expect me to follow that when you can't even make your minds up yourself. It's ridiculous.
Well, the Roman Emperor Constantine had to do the Council of Nicaea. It's because Christians were just tearing each other apart. Riots, fighting, violence. against Trinitarianism versus non-Trinitarianism. Christians cannot agree amongst themselves about the nature of their own deity.
Well, you see, the
No.
thing is, this is. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just agreeing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about. We got distracted. I was thinking about when we were talking about the hypocrisy of Christians on like how they won't. They'll eat shrimp because it's delicious, and and do this and do that. I'm like, I know. I work with a guy and he's a Muslim, and he at least follows it. He hasn't had a drop of alcohol in his life. He follows his. Now, the Muslim religion also, thinks it's okay to subjugate women. Although let's face it, if you take Christianity and all the religions right down to the core, women are not allowed to do anything.
No.
So, but I mean,
Yeah.
at least Muslims, who do as they say and actually follow through are more like in tune with their religion than Christians that just pick and choose what the hell they want.
I'll tell you this: I would say a vast majority of Muslims know what the second commandment is, and they take it seriously.
Yeah.
I think if you take a lot of evangelicals and ask them what the second commandment is, they'd go, guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what, like, I tend to believe that even most American fundamental Christians are cultural Christians. Like, if you look at their actions, they don't live their life like they truly believe that this blood god is watching their every move. If they did, America would be a completely different place.
Yeah, but isn't it better that they don't take it that literally? Because what a place it would be.
Definitely.
If people follow the Bible to the letter. Oh my! I want an island building where I'll just there on my own because I don't want nothing to do with another one. Well, I won't last 5 minutes.
I'd definitely be the main course at the next barbecue if they.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Taken literally.
All that yummy heathen meat.
Oh, just to let you know as well, my band's over. I'm back on YouTube.
Oh, you're back on YouTube. Congratulations.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, it was lifted today, so yeah, I can stream again today. But,
What did you do that got you banned?
It was totally and utterly the title of what I put on, not the content.
Yeah.
I had a stream with Iger Television, and he believes every conspiracy theory going, every single one. And I'd seen him on a few channels, and I knew he was going to do it, or I was banking on the fact he was going to do it, which is the magnet sticking to your arm after you've had the injection. So I got it all set up, ready, but I had to wait for him to mention it because I couldn't be the one to mention it. Anyway, sure enough, he did. So I got it to stick to my arm. But at the end of it, obviously, I said, you're being gullible, blah, 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 blah. I titled it, Skeptic Gets Magnet to Stick to His Arm After COVID Injection. They pulled it totally because of that. Nothing to do with the content because obviously, I was debunking what they were saying.
Yeah.
It was totally the title. I'm going to put it back up, but I'm going to have to think of another title. So if anybody can think of a title that isn't going to get it pulled just because of the title, then I'm going to put it back up again because I've still got the clip, obviously.
Yeah, just
How
throw
about
debunks in there.
dumbass beliefs bullshit?
What's that, Ray?
I would say just throw debunks into your title somewhere and you're good.
I think if you use the word prank, people like prank.
Prank, yeah.
Yeah.
But YouTube is definitely, especially when it comes to COVID, cracking down on the conspiracies.
Or just anti-vaxxers will believe anything.
But the thing was as well is obviously I appealed against it and basically said, look, don't go by the title, go by what the content is. And they've got a message back about 24 hours later. After reviewing your stream, we still find that it goes against what the medical profession would say. And I was like, what? You clearly didn't watch it.
A first review is not even done by a human.
No, it's all AI stuff. Yeah, it's yeah.
Well, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as honestly, like on Facebook, my girlfriend has reported stuff that is ridiculously hateful, and then it goes, and then it's and she reports, and then they review it, and they go, this does not go against our community standards. I mean, it's probably an algorithm that's doing it. It's probably not a human that's reviewing it. That or and there's so many times I could report someone for hate speech. I mean. But it's honestly, it's like,
I had theists actively trying to dox me live on stream. They were calling places in Battle Creek, Michigan to try to find where I work live on stream. I reported it. Several other people reported it that saw it. YouTube did nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I get a magnet, stick it to my arm, and go, got you, and I get pulled for a week.
Yeah.
Well, Paul,
How long was it? A month?
No, it was a week. I got 7 days. No,
Yeah.
I couldn't live stream. Well, I couldn't stream anything. I couldn't even put a recorder because I thought it was just live stream that I was banned from. So I did like a pre-record and put it on. No, it wasn't on. And then I got banned. I didn't get banned. I got a strike about 2 weeks ago because I went out hunting squirrels and I filmed it live.
Yeah.
So they pulled that, but they said the reason that was pulled is you can't have firearms live on the internet. And I thought, yeah, that's a fair one. I should have thought of that. You know, you've got a firearm with you and you're live. I can understand them not allowing that.
The thing that I had a problem with your video is I could tell right away there was going to be 80 people who were going to clip it to the point where you went, wow, look at that. It stuck to my arm. And they were going to take that 2-minute segment and they were going to post it up and say, here you go.
Yeah, possible. But like I said, it got pulled. But the main video, the mainstream, which was almost 2 hours long, obviously that's fine, which it's in that
context.
That's fine because in the title, there's nothing to, anybody to whinge about. It's purely the title. I picked the wrong title. I shouldn't have chose that title.
Yeah. You see, I had a friend who he used to stream a lot because he used to be in radio and he did a lot of Facebook live streams. He used to do a week, I think 4 days or 5 days a week, and he stopped doing it because he had he just ran out, he didn't want to do it anymore. But he did this. There was this BBC reporter, or she did the internet content for BBC or something, and they went back, and even though she deleted it, they found a tweet where basically she was saying Hitler was right, and it took he said it's got something that got him banned for doing 30 days, basically calling out Facebook for calling out BBC or something or a thing, and they banned him for 30 days. And so basically he just rearranged Hitler as in Schittler, because that doesn't get you a ban. But the fact is that it's the thing is, the woman was finally fired, thank God. But I mean, it took 30 days for BBC to fire her. Yeah. It should have been, hey, you posted saying Hitler was right. Next day, you should be fired. Yeah,
I mean, Tequila's career was ruined because she started embracing Hitler, dressed her damn baby up as Hitler one time. It immediately ruined her career, and rightfully so. I mean, and she's insane. Not to mention that part.
Well, I don't think we should have drastic knee-jerk reactions on either side. If somebody makes a joke about Hitler, take it in context, look at it, and say, that was in poor taste. It wasn't a great joke. Try not to do that again.
And we need to talk about Hitler.
But if somebody is celebrating Hitler, that's a completely different line to cross.
You see, listen. My grandparents escaped Germany in the early 30s because they were Jewish. Okay, they had to go. If they hadn't, I wouldn't be around. And I've made Holocaust jokes. Okay, they're in incredibly poor taste. They're disgusting. But there's a difference between saying, don't make one of them, which I hope this doesn't get this thing banned, is.
Hey! As soon as you say that,
it's a joke. It's a joke about a guard tower, and my.
That's like a sign, right?
Yeah, no, it's okay. We'll just say it's a joke about a guard tower. Okay, we won't go any further. But there's a massive difference between me making a joke like that and a woman saying Hitler was right, and context is thing. It's I would never, first off, I would never put a joke like that on mainstream Facebook. I might put it in a messenger group or something, because the fact is that I've got family that I've got my family on there, and there's,
and that's the whole issue, though, is context, and it will never be solved while ever it's bots, because they're just listening for the words. So even you saying a woman said Hitler was right, it's just listening for you saying Hitler was right.
Or Hitler triggers and then and that's my fear is this. That's what I don't like about this whole cancel culture thing that's sweeping through the left and the right. Both sides do it. But we should not be running away from Hitler. We should be able to have a solid conversation about Hitler, what Hitler did, what happened during World War II, what happened during the Holocaust. Because the moment that we don't allow that conversation, another damn Hitler's going to come and do another damn Holocaust. You know.
Well, you see, all you need to know is that apparently they did a study on how many people in the United States under a certain age do not even know about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And it is a math. I think it was, and that right there is why everyone says like, and my friend who, you know, we're both atheists, but we're born Jewish, so we, you know, like Zionism and all that. But he's saying like, you know, he said that you know, this is, you know, like basically we're told. It happened. You know what? 80 years, 40 to my math. 80 years ago. Just forget. Like, get over it already. Well, no, because if we do get over it, people are going to forget about it, and it's going to happen again. And that's what people don't realize. You know, you can't.
The thing is, though, Glenn, I think that is going to happen anyway. I think that's inevitable. I mean, like with me, obviously, when I was at school, some of my teachers were actually in the Second World War. My grandparents lived through the Second World War. My granddad was, my father was born at the beginning of the Second World War. So I've got a connection with it. I can relate to people. Like my son, all right, his grandparents were born during it, and then now he's had another son. By the time he gets older, it's like us trying to, I suppose, get people to still recognise the Napoleon War. I think once you get several generations past it, and there's no link, that link's broken. Basically, we've all died.
Yeah.
Because we are basically the final link. Because it was my parents and my grandparents that were there. So when it comes to my son and my grandson, that connection isn't going to be quite as strong. So I think it will, to some extent, become forgotten.
Yeah.
Which,
but you see, the thing is, but you see, that's where my. Because my dad was born in 41, so he was born right in the middle. Like he was born in Loughborough in 41. So you know, like he was. They were lucky. They weren't like where the Blitz. They weren't near the Blitz because that was mostly London, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean,
my father, he was born in 40. My mother was born in 39. My father was born in 1940. But my father still remembers being about 3 or 4 years old, and he was in Hull at the time. Because they bombed Hull, but Hull was heavily bombed, and he remembers that as a 4-year-old when Hull was bombed, because he was hiding under the stairs with his auntie, and then they moved from there to Scarborough. Like. So he remembered it as a kid.
You see, the thing is, this is what annoys me is that we teach all this history in class, but like Holocaust history or Second World War history or war history should be taught alongside in for instance in the US the formation of the United States. It should be taught because it's something that is just as important to how a lot of the country is the world is formed. Keep in mind, you do the math. There's only how many million Jews left in the world. They wiped out, for instance, they wiped out 6 million, but then you take those 6 million and how many more, like you're looking at 30 or 40 million more people that are not around, at least because of just this. No, I'm not saying just 6 million, but because of the 6 million, you times that by how many generations, you know, you know, they wiped out, you know, and that's what pisses me off. And when you hear people go, oh, well, don't even get me started on Candace Owens and how she says nationalism was okay because it was fine until Hitler decided to go for other countries. So it's okay that German Jews were slaughtered, you know, like.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to get to is we've already forgotten about World War II, and you already see the right using tactics that Hitler used. Right now, they're saying the new Marxism is the fascist, the liberal fascist, using critical race theory, which would be the Zionists are using critical race theory. They're using colored people to get their revenge on the Goyim. This is a right-wing talking point now. It's not a neo-Nazi talking point. It's a right-wing talking point.
Well, yeah. But you see the problem with a lot of the right.
Dave did want to say something. And Dave, what were you going to say, sir?
Oh, no, I wanted to jump in and say, when you're talking about they should teach history in schools, yes, they should. But whose history? The victors in the past wrote history.
Yeah.
And the genocides, the people who died, didn't get to write a damn word. The other people did.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about what history we teach, we're in a different world now. We are so privileged to have cameras and microphones everywhere, to have input from people in real time while it happens. That did not happen in the past. And the history we're teaching is contaminated by the people who wrote it in a very, very large way.
You
so
see,
when you talk about teaching history, you have to teach that element of it. That what we're reading is all the information that we have from this source.
Yeah. Well, you see, the thing is,
and all history is just a small window into what happened in the past. It's not a big picture. It's like looking through a small window and observing the past.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, this is you got to. I think, like, this is just something I just came up with and probably very flawed. That I think you have to teach maybe the history of genocide as a completely different point and have it incorporated in schools all the way through high school. Because we talk about the biggest genocide that most of us talk about are either two of them. It's either the natives of either Australia, Canada, or the US, or the Jews. We never talk about the Armenian genocide. We never talk about the Rwandan genocide. Well, we barely ever. We never talk about the Kosovoan genocide.
Go ahead, Rage. Wanted to jump in on that. Yeah, and you're on mute, brother. You're on mute, Rage.
Oh yeah, I do that sometimes. I talk about the Armenian genocide a lot just because I've been forced to defend Cenk Unger.
You don't like him either?
Oh, I love him, and he gets a bad rap. But people tried to latch Cenk onto the genocide in Turkey. The Young Turks was the original name of that group of Turks that would eventually go on to do the genocide. What people don't tell you, though, is that group was infiltrated by fascists, and pretty much all of the socialists were killed, and the fascists went on to rule. You have to really get into the Armenian genocide to understand it, but they don't teach you that,
Yeah, well, I know that Anna Kasparian is being on there is a face of the Armenian. Well, not the face of it, but she is the one that keeps on talking about because her family's Armenian. So these get spoken. But the problem is that stuff like the Young Turks, they have a massive following, but they're not mainstream enough that it's that the stuff that they want to talk about needs to be covered more in mainstream media. And properly covered.
I think not just Young Turks, but groups like the Young Turks, online media that does it right, because there's a lot of online media that does it wrong. But when you get that, you do see, hey, we do have an issue with our mainstream media in this country, and that's how Donald Trump was able to latch onto that and kind of really dig into a lot of people's guts, because a lot of people sees it.
I don't necessarily agree that it's a problem with mainstream media. I think it's a problem with society. Mainstream media only blows the way the wind goes, and if people,
I don't think that though. I think mainstream media blows the way the donors make it blow. The corporations, the CEOs. I mean, CNN's Time Warner. Time Warner is one of the oldest oligarchical institutions in the country.
You wouldn't have companies like Shell and Chevron and Amazon. You wouldn't have them advertising on these channels if they didn't have the goddamn viewers. It's the viewers that drive everything. We vote with our dollars, and we vote with our... People don't understand how important it is to vote with your time on the internet now. Because if you're watching garbage, more garbage is going to get pumped into your face.
I'll have to tell you something about history. I'm listening to Dan Carlin, who does hardcore history, and he's talking about the Pacific War. And Hearst, who ran a newspaper, specifically put out stories promoting General MacArthur and criticizing the wars. Like, why don't you just make MacArthur the overall commander in the Pacific? And Hearst wanted MacArthur to be the Republican presidential candidate at some point. So there is a relationship between those who own the the news sources in promoting.
It's not even just a relationship. I'm 100% with Rage on that one. It's especially in Australia, we see it so blatantly. Just one example, and I could give you thousands. In my state of New South Wales, our premier, so the state leader, is Liberal, who is backed by Rupert Murdoch. In the 6 months since they were elected into Parliament, the Australian, which is one of the biggest newspapers in Australia, ran over 300 stories on the Premier and 3 stories on the opposition leader. Of the 3 stories they ran, all 3 stories were negative. And of the Premier stories, of the over 300, 3% of them had negative comments or so, you know, and that's one tiny example, and I could go on for hours.
YouTube, I think when you're on YouTube, if I could interject for a second, when you're on YouTube, it's definitely people gear their channels towards their fan base. You know, that's because it's a smaller audience. And this is how you make your money, basically, or this is how people who are popular make their money.
Joe Rogan is a perfect example of that.
Yeah. So there's definitely, but I think when you scale up into more traditional media, there's still an influence of that. There's still people still have to watch, but I think it's a different model than what you find on YouTube. It's a lot.
As well as negative stories sell better than positive stories.
Oh yeah.
Well, if it bleeds, it bleeds.
You got to remember though, like in the world we live in, people want to talk to the prime minister and the president, not the second in command. When you watch an F1 race and Lewis Hamilton wins, he does 300 interviews. Do you know how many interviews the second guy does? 2.
Well, that's because the second guy's the first loser.
and viewers just don't care. Nobody's watching it, or if there was,
I'm somewhat disappointed.
When it's the case before the election.
I just want to say I'm somewhat disappointed that no one accused me of doing the middle ground fallacy just now when I was talking about different models between YouTube and media and telling me I'm full of shit.
Just a quick question, kind of related to media. How the hell is Fox News still able to portray themselves as an outsider and not mainstream media when they are the biggest media, the most watched media news channel? Well,
news channel out of all the cable news. They're the most watched cable news network. Or at least they used to be in a couple of, I don't know if after they decided to actually, some people actually started to be critical of Trump, whether or not they are. But how can they portray themselves as being the outsiders? They are mainstream media.
It's the same reason why Christians can say that they're being persecuted when they're the majority in the country.
Yeah. Well, apparently, no. The most persecuted person is a straight white male.
Well, I would say that Fox News knows what it's doing, and they know who they're talking to. They're talking to the disillusioned. They're talking to the people that feels like their culture is under threat. So they have to promote, hey, we're the news for you, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I like the way that Christians all band
OAN.
together. When it comes to getting how many Christians is there, they all band together as one. But then when you talk to them, they'll say that group over there isn't really a Christian. The Catholics aren't Christians. And this group over here aren't Christians. So actually, the true Christians are only very small because all the rest of them are fake Christians. It's only when you're doing numbers that they all come together and, there's 2.3 billion of them. No, there isn't.
Yeah, I always found that funny. So they love to talk about how they're the biggest religion in the world now, as they go around and say everybody else isn't a Christian.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think I believe that the only reason they are the biggest is if you include the Catholic religion in with them. If you remove the
you
Catholic,
got to throw them in there, and the Orthodox Christians, and everybody else, but they're not real Christians.
Yeah.
I like to say,
in numbers, then they're real.
Well, the thing is, this is
2.3 billion. 2.3 billion, and every one of them's wrong.
Yeah.
Well, even if you throw in the Catholic religion, yeah, they're the biggest. But if you take out the Catholic religion, the Muslim religion is still the biggest in the world, because I think there's 3 billion in Muslims around the world, right?
No, they're second. The second. They haven't taken over yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Islam's still the second, but I think Islam is the fastest growing.
Because of the population growth.
Yeah.
I just want to give a hat tip to Paul, saying the very English old school, if you include Catholics as Christians.
Martin Luther didn't know that letter.
Yeah, it's just how about we go and say that in Ireland, Northern Ireland, combine the two. You'll either get a round of drinks or you'll get killed. One of the two.
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah.
Are you an Irish Catholic or an Irish Protestant? Yeah.
I think what you're really trying to say is that we need another religion to be planted in Northern Ireland, so both of the Christian groups can hate on.
There used to be an Irish joke. There used to be an Irish joke with the IRA. Some guy got stopped by the IRA, and they said, "Are you Catholic or Protestant?" And he says, "I'm an atheist." He goes, "Are you a Catholic atheist or a Protestant atheist?"
I know that either happened to Dawkins or to Hitchens. I forget which one. That actually happened to them. And I forget which person it was. But it was one of the two, wasn't it? One of those two.
I think it was Hitchens, yeah.
I was talking to Math Pig a few weeks ago. I think he put the pictures on his Twitter, but he shared with me his pictures from a hot spot where he lives, and I'm like, like the Protestants and the Catholics are still killing each other. He's like, "Oh yeah, fucking every day," and I'm like, you don't really hear it. Like, that it's still happening, but it's not like world news. And over here, we just don't hear about that often. Yeah, the Christians are still blowing each other's brains out.
Yeah, and to be honest, we don't get a lot of news of it because I don't think they want to make it public knowledge, because they don't want. It's a bit basically Northern Ireland is a tinderbox. They don't want to ignite it. So it is. It's just still going on. When I served in the army, I spent 2 years in Londonderry, and absolutely bloody terrible place. It really was.
What do you think? Do you think Brexit has pushed the chances of unification further or closer?
Yeah, because in my own opinion, from what I followed on the story, is that the effective border, and I know that Paul and I have talked about this before, the effective border is now out in the ocean. The real border between Northern Ireland and other country and the EU isn't the land border between Ireland. It's actually the sea border, and that might sound like gibberish to people here in the States, but that's basically saying that there is an internal border now between England, Scotland, and Wales, and another part of its own country in Northern Ireland. There'd be like a customs between Massachusetts and New York. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I think that is the best way to sum it up. Because clearly Northern Ireland is going to have to be treated slightly different, because you can literally walk over the border.
Yeah, but Paul? Do you think that it's actually pushed the Irish to maybe compromise and become a united Ireland due to Brexit?
To some extent, yes, I would think that it will have got people to want to be a united Ireland, but whether Northern Ireland will ever get the majority, it's at this moment in time, I'd say no. In the future, it is possible that Ireland could vote to become one again. And to be honest, I think it would solve all the problems if it actually was.
Yeah,
it would solve. Well, the thing is, it's like the Catholic population in Northern Ireland is supposed to be larger than the Protestant population in Northern Ireland. I think within like a 10 or 20 year timeline. I'm not absolutely sure on that though, about the time. But I know that it is the way that it's going. That's how it's going.
The thing is, this is if you look at it now, just because of Brexit, thanks to David Cameron or whoever did it, Great Britain's going to consist of, if everything were if this was up to the Scottish, Great Britain would consist of Wales and England, because Northern Ireland is going to want to leave, and then Northern Ireland, so there's going to be nothing left of Great Britain per se, and
Well, that's what Brexit was all about. Was about tribalism, and primarily English tribalism.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was just sitting here thinking that Scotland might actually split away from the UK. because
they
did have a vote about 5 or 6 years ago, and the majority decided to stay. But then, obviously, with Brexit, they're now campaigning that they want another referendum.
Well, the thing is, this wasn't Sturgeon at the time basically went to Cameron or something and said, "I'll back staying if you promise not to exit Europe." Well, that was the thing, what she said, right? And then they promised him that. I'm almost certain I heard that that's what they promised him, and then turn around and have a referendum to leave Europe anyway.
I think when they had the referendum, I think the government at the time was 100% convinced that we would stay. I think it was one hell of a shock when the votes came in and the vote was to leave. I think the government was absolutely shocked. It was not expecting that to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean England lied to the Scottish people? Oh my God!
No.
Oh my God, that's a shocker.
But you see, if I'm not mistaken, someone told me this is that for Scotland to leave, they have to go to the House of Commons of Great Britain, House of Commons, and get permission to have a referendum to leave, and they could just tell them to stuff it because let's face it, Boris Johnson would probably say that just because because he's an idiot, but
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, it's got to go through the Houses of Parliament before they can have a referendum. Yes,
which is ridiculous considering you screwed them over for a couple hundredth time.
I would find it hard to believe that England would send English troops to Scotland to pacify the country. And I think that's when you talk about independence movements, that's what it boils down to. Are you
Where
willing
is William Wallace when you need him?
Yeah.
As much as I'm proud of being English, and I have worked with the Scottish, and like I say, as much as I'm proud to be English, it would be a bit of a mistake if we sent troops over there to try and the Scottish can fight.
Yeah,
they're not one to just bow down and take it. They can fight, can them guys?
Yeah,
it's interesting that people don't know this, but the reason why the Scots agreed to go into a union with England is because they became bankrupt. The whole government ran a horrible colonial scheme. I think in the early 19th, late 17th, 18th century, the country became bankrupt, and they're like, the English are like, hey, you know what? We'll take care of your debt for you. Just go and join us. And they're like, okay, we can do that.
Yeah, you might be right. I'm not that clued up on the history of it, to be honest.
Man, 5 minutes. I just spent a lot of time on history YouTube, and it's like you just learn things, man. You just learn.
So England was like a loan shark. They were like, come over here and we'll lend you the money. And, then you're indebted. Yeah, then you're indebted to me.
Well, the thing is, this is go back, how many hundreds of years, Britain or England pretty much, along with the Greeks and the Romans, owned pretty much, and maybe the Dutch and a couple other countries. They owned the whole damn world.
Well, it's one third of the world.
They colonized them.
It was the British Empire covered 1/3 of the world's surface in terms of land.
You can still see it. Just you can still see it today with there's still there are still the amount of the countries in the Commonwealth.
Oh, yeah.
We're part of the Commonwealth.
The sun never sets on the British Empire.
Yeah.
Wasn't that one of the saying? The sun never sets.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Dave? Were you going to say something?
If I could just segue for 1 second from this whole British duping the Scottish thing, I just wanted to point out that if you can share my screen real quick, I bought this beautiful park bench, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I got it and stuck it in my backyard yesterday.
All right, let me see if I can do that.
You buy things on the internet, and you're like, is it going to work? Is it going to be great? Is it going to look nice? And there it is. It's just gorgeous. And the best part about it is it's completely portable.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Dave, I expected it to be some kind of joke, but it seems to be a real thing. Because usually when you
Andy, it's a park bench that I can fit like one leg on.
We used to have one of them in. We had one of them in our garden. We got rid of it about 5 or 6 years ago. It was bigger than that. You could actually sit 4 people. When I first saw the photo, that's what I thought it was. Normally they're outside pubs.
This was not to scale. This was like the Barbie park bench they sold me.
Yeah.
All right, I got to run, everyone. I'm sorry for closing the chat down so fast.
I gotta go.
Just got a question for you, Andy. What's the Dr. Conrad link? What's that?
No, Dr. Kennard. That's just my nom de guerre. That's a character that I use on my blog, Laughing in Disbelief. So whenever so I figured out that Dr. Kennard is probably more popular, or people will recognize Kennard more than my real name.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times and I thought, what's all that about?
Yeah, it's just an inside joke for those people who actually read my blog. It's like, oh, you're that dude who does that thing. So,
right.
I'm the guy. All right. Okay, thanks a lot, panel.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Take care.
See you tomorrow.
Have a good day, guys.
Yeah, catch you all later.